Good morning and welcome to Hangin with the Chads on a Sunday morning here in Central Florida. The calm before the storm today, and hopefully it doesn't rain out my field because I got to paint it tomorrow for a flag football game on Tuesday. Boudreaux, good morning to you. Represent the Twins, I see.
Yeah, for today, I figured opening day was last week, so might as well represent my Twinkies and wish them well.
Hey, look, I like the old Twin Cities myself. I'm not like the greatest fan of them, but I am definitely a Joe Mauer fan. No offense, he's the greatest twin to ever play the game. Yes, I know Kirby Puckett. I know. However, I'm a left-hander. I like a left-handed hitting catcher. Joe Mauer fits that, but he was Mr. All-State in football, basketball, and baseball in high school. So to me, he's one of the top five greatest athletes to ever grace the field of play. And I know some people don't agree with that, but that's why we get to say what we want here.
Yeah, that's right. So we're here for, right? I mean, we
Yes.
disagree on this, Kirby Puckett to me, but that's my era. That's what I grew up with. So, and Joe Mauer was great, man. Loved him.
Speaking of which, the era we grew up on. Look, our bracket. Uh, Shout out to all the people who's ahead of us right now. I think we're in fourth, but we're tied for fourth. We have a 2.5% chance of winning it. Someone else has that same percentage too, that has the same picks that we do. And that's our amazing friend, Tiffany King, who we would tie with her if everything goes to play. And, it's been a crazy, crazy, crazy March Madness. We had two teams punch their ticket into the Final Four, two teams who we selected last night. We're going to get into that here in a little bit. But this bracket challenge has been it's been fun. We was, up in first for a while. Now we dropped down back to reality, and it's not looking good for us, big dog. So, shout out Dave Allen. As long as Houston wins, he wins. Dave Allen, you're on pace to get a care package from Hanging with the Chads. And, again, we're going to get into all that later. It's going to be a great show. Today, we're going to talk about some AD stuff finally. Very important athletic director things we got going on. A lot of legalities, liabilities involved with that stuff. And, Boudreaux, I know you're always ready, so I really don't need to ask you, but I'm going to anyway. Are you ready?
Let's roll, brother.
All right. Here's the good thing about today. We got some Formula One news. Red Bull, Mr. Marco has confirmed that Yuki will remain on the team for the entire season for a promotion to replace Liam Lawson. And Liam now drops down. Explain what that is. Is that like a call up from AAA to the bigs, or and a demotion for Mr. Lawson, or what is that exactly?
It's
And what are
not
your
a.
thoughts?
Well, first of all, Yuki should have been in the seat before the season started.
Mhm.
I mean, Liam came on to replace Daniel Ricciardo last year towards the end of the year. I don't think he earned the spot from Yuki. I think
Mhm.
Yuki earned that time to get into the seat. But to answer your question, it's not like a going from a AAA team to the majors. They still race F1. So there's F1, F2, F3, like
Yeah.
all the way down, right? But the Racing Bulls is the junior team compared to the Red Bull team. So every team has a big team. So
Yeah.
like you have Red Bull, you've got Mercedes, you got Ferrari, you got McLaren. You have all those teams, and they all have like a junior team where they give seat time to somebody who they want to pull up into their big team at some point. Yuki deserved it right now. He's been getting the results that they need for F1, and with them being the Racing Bulls, they don't have the full package that the Red Bull has. So it'll be interesting to see how he can deal with all that power. But Liam, I mean, I think every qualifying run they've had so far, he's been in that last place role.
Mhm.
And then he's been okay, but he hasn't gotten any points where Yuki's been consistently getting the points. He's been consistently qualifying decently. So hats off to Yuki. I hope he does well next weekend in Japan. And let's see what the rest of the season has to go with.
Yeah, and he's starting in the Japan Grand Prix, his home country. I'm not sure if it's his actual hometown. There got to be some butterflies with that. That's obviously a big seat to fill, big team, powerful team, as you said. So it's going to be great to see, or not great, but it's going to be amazing to watch him, to see how he can control his emotions. Because again, you're the F1 guy, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. It comes down to milliseconds, and it comes down to centimeters, and it comes down to a twitch of that wheel is going to get you off track, and you're going to lose your line. So it's going to be great to see that. What do you think is going to be the future for Liam? Do you think Red Bull is going to drop him for not performing, or you think they're going to give him another chance? How's that going to look, do you think?
I think he's going to be fine. He'll stay with the Racing Bulls for now. He's going to get the thing he needed was more seat time. That jump from F2 to F1 is a huge jump. It is similar to going from a AAA ball club to majors, right? Like the speeds are different, everything's different. Just like going from college to the NFL, going from the G League to the NBA. It's a huge jump. And if you don't have seat time and you don't have time like with other cars on the track, understanding the speeds that come around those turns, it can be really petrifying for someone. And I think Liam just needs more seat time, understanding how the car actually works. And then we'll see what happens at the end of the year where Yuki, does he perform? Because the one thing Red Bull's done in history, especially since Horner's been in charge of Red Bull, is they're not afraid to make changes. Obviously, they did it after 2 races this year. They quickly went to the change. So they're not afraid to make the change. So it'll be interesting to see if Yuki can perform in the Red Bull, or if Liam finally understands the car and then he can get back in it next year.
Yeah. Hey, hats off to Yuki. He's the young gun. He gets his opportunity. So I'm going to be cheering for him because you're name dropping him now. So we're going to shout him out here at Hanging with the Chads. Yuki, good luck. Be safe. Kick butt, not physically, but emotionally and mentally. And have fun in front of your home country, man. That has to be an amazing feeling, man. Just going in front of your home country. F1 is a world renowned sport. They travel everywhere. So it's going to be fun to see what he does. And again, F1 news from Boudreaux over here. He's our residential expert. He's always teaching us something nice. You got any other F1 news you want to talk about, Boudreaux, while we got you?
No, I'm just waiting for this week to see how, if with the Ferraris having those 2 penalties that they've got from the last race, see how they're going to react, if the cars are still going to be as dominant as they've been. Mm-hmm. McLaren, obviously, they are the cars to beat this year. You saw it at the end of last year, and it's just continuing on. If Red Bull if Yuki can start scoring points, then Red Bull will be right back in it, because we all know Max is the best driver. Mm-hmm. So it'll just see where everyone lines up this week, especially, like I said, after the penalties with Ferrari. McLaren's still way out there in front, and then if Yuki can start scoring points for Red Bull.
It's funny you said Max. What do you think is going through Max's head? You just lost a teammate, the guy you trained all off season with, to understand who he is, how he drives. That your teammate, it needs to be your security blanket. What do you think Max is feeling right now with getting the young gun to come in, Yuki? Is it do they all practice together during the off season, or is it something where your other teams obviously stay where they're at, practice, do whatever. But what do you think is going through Max's mind right now?
So, with Max, I think Max he doesn't care, honestly. From things that I've seen with him, I know he's a great person. He does a lot for the F1 community. He does a lot for the community itself. I mean, but to him, I think he wants to put the helmet on, get in the car, strap in, and drive. That's what he does. That's what he's good at. The thing that I think is going to throw him off is when they sit down and have those meetings, those briefings after each one, and trying to understand what Yuki's coming from on his side of things. That's where I think it's going to fall off, because when they have their briefings, they all sit together on both sides of the table and they talk about how the car is performing for each person, and then it's going to be, is what Yuki's saying going to help me? Is it going to hurt me? Because I don't know if he's going to understand it at this point, because like you said, they've been understanding how each other goes. Now, granted, they're going to give Max what Max wants, because Max he's going for the championship. Yuki's not going to go for the championship. Max is going for the championship. So they're going to give Max what he wants, but it's going to be like you're saying, relying on your teammate to understand if they're going to be there for that moment when I need them most on what they're saying.
All right. And, coming from F1 to another dominant world sport, we got some NHL news. Hey, Tuesday night, Ovechkin scored 889 to put him within 6 goals of Wayne Gretzky and his 990 or 894. With 10 games left, is Alex the Great going to be able to break the record, or are we going to have to wait till the beginning of next season?
That one's he's cutting it close.
Yeah.
Like at first when we brought this up in one of the previous podcasts, like he was on pace, it was absolutely going to happen. But then he's going through a little drought here, and it's basically coming down to that last game. Is he going to be able to pull it off in that last game? I think he will. I think he wants to get it over with. I think he's going to push to get it over with. Now, teams he's playing ahead, do they want to be the team that gets the record breaker scored on them? That's where it's at, right? It's all about who steps up.
That goalie is going to be sitting back there. He's like, yeah, you ain't breaking it on me, son. You better try it on somebody else. I mean, I think that it's going to be amped up. Obviously anything, nobody wanted to be the guy that let Bonds break the record for the single season or the career home run. Nobody wanted to be the guy to let McGuire break the home run record, and I bet the goalie, whenever Gretzky broke, the gold record, didn't want to be the goalie that let him break the record. So, I mean, it's always going to be fun. It's going to be amped up. I think, you're right. He wants to get it done as quickly as he can, because what happens after that? Playoffs. You don't want that looming over your head. I mean, that could be a distraction. And, sports, we know it is 90% mental. If you're in your feelings, if you're in, that aura where you're like, dang, I should have been able to do this. And, the what ifs, I mean, it's not going to be good for you and your team. And we don't want to see the Caps with the early exit unless they play the Hurricanes, because, go Canes, baby. So, at the end of the day, I think he wants to get it done. I think he's going to do his damnedest to get it done. And if it don't happen, then, hey, everybody has a moment at the beginning of the season, and that's going to be his moment. And, speaking of moments, hey, NBA Joker, did you see that 3/4 foot shot from the opposite 3-point line? Throws it up like he's throwing someone out at home plate, swishes it. What can't Joker do?
I don't know. I saw it and I was like, wait, let me see that again. It's like it was so effortless too, right? It was like he just went, yeah, I got it, no big deal, I'm out. I didn't understand like physics of it. How did that happen? Where it was just, yeah, no problem, like, effortless.
He Kobe'd it for real. I guarantee you, he said Kobe as he done it. Speaking of Kobe and the Lakers, they went a little slow. They went on a little drought. We're 5-5 over the past 10. They're 4th out of the West. We got roughly 2 weeks left in the season, give or take, and because I think it ends the Sunday before Easter. So the Lakers, what are we going to do? We're not in the play-in yet, but there's a chance whenever you got a couple of teams below them at 3.5 out from overtaking them. But what are we going to do about our Lakers here? And not our Lakers, but everybody obviously wants to root for the Lakers now that they got Luka. So what is the Lakers going to do?
Well, it's what I've said before. Like we talked about it, defense is what's going to win the championships. So it doesn't. It's time tested. You can have the best offense in the world, but if you don't have a defense, you're not going to win. And that's what the problem with the Lakers right now. I mean, they're winning games with like 120, like some absurd number, like 120, 130 to 118. So if they're not going to stop anybody, this is why you go in these backslides. Now, granted, LeBron's still working back from his injury, so he's still got to get back in shape to play, and then he is a good defensive player that you're bringing back. But you can't rely on scoring 130 a night. Look what happened. Look what happened last night with Duke and Alabama. Night before, Alabama goes and scores 26 freaking 3 points. And then they go up against a good defensive Duke team, and they lose. So that's what happens in championships, man. It comes down. It's always going to come down to a defense.
Shout out to Flag.
Yeah, Coop Flag. Yeah, but it's always going to be that defense. So you win, like we said, go back to last year in the Super Bowl. You got the great offense in KC. Could not do anything until the fourth quarter because Philly's defense was just stopping them with 4 rushing. So that's what I'm saying. It's going to be.
By then, that game was already over. I mean, they dropped 41 on them. I mean, there's not much you're going to really do on that one. Hey, look, with the playoff push coming, man, it's going to be interesting over the next 2 weeks. See how they manage everything, and this is this is going to be my hot take here. If you notice, there's a finals prediction at the bottom. What does the NBA need more than anything right now? They need something to boost the ratings just a little bit. I don't think now, personally, I could be wrong. I don't think that many of the players like the All-Star Weekend format. I didn't like how it was done. Shout out to Mac for winning the dunk contest. However, I don't think a G League guy should have been in the slam dunk competition. Can you name, since Vince Carter won the slam dunk competition, can you name another winner? I mean, you got
Really?
Dwight Howard, you had Blake Griffin, Jason Richardson won it a couple of times. However, I think the players need to get more love into it. They need to play defense. And honestly, I think we're heading to NBA Finals, NBA ratings 101, Boston, Lakers. I think that's what the NBA is going to head to. That is my NBA Finals prediction. Shout out to Cleveland. No disrespect to them. Shout out to Oklahoma City. But who wants a Midwestern, I-90 or whatever that interstate is coming all the way down from, Oklahoma, up to, Cleveland? Who wants that? Nobody.
Right.
They want to see, Tatum versus Luka, Jaylen Brown versus LeBron, So I think it's going to lead to that. They need ratings and they need to fix the All-Star game. But, what are your thoughts on the playoffs coming up and your finals prediction?
I mean, that'd be the best thing for the NBA. You get your two big markets, your two historic teams going at it with big name players. Like basically you have LeBron, the face of the NBA right now. You got Luka, like you said, you got the two with Boston. So I think that would be the best for the league, but it's also going to be the worst for the league for people like me because then it's just I like seeing the small market teams get in there and fight it out, right? But you can market that so much because you can go back to history, you can go back to with Kareem, you can go back to Bird. Like there's so much history between those two franchises that it would just make sense that the NBA is hoping that happens. Now, granted, things happen. That's why you play the game. But just looking at the way the season, even when there was our first or second podcast, I said it. That could have been when the Lakers played Celtics. I said that could be an NBA final right there, and I still believe it because I think they are. They're two of the better. I wouldn't say they're the best teams right now, just because the Lakers have had that little bit of backslide on them, but they are two of the better teams, and they can light it up when they need to.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. These playoffs are going to be real interesting. Yes, I wouldn't mind seeing the push for Cleveland to get out of LeBron's shadow, win a championship. Oklahoma City. They had an opportunity 20 years ago, give or take, to have one of the greatest rosters ever assembled, but you just didn't want to pay the people. And so, but in reality, we got to look at numbers ratings and. Boston, LA, that is definitely a rating in itself. It is definitely going to be something that is going to be interesting for everybody to see. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take us a quick break real quick before we finish up our top sports news. Hey, thank you for hanging out with the Chads. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. And we are back to get on top of this sports news one more time. Hey, Boudreaux, baseball opening week, one of my most favorite weeks of the year. Opening day started with Baltimore putting it up on Toronto. They hit 6 home runs in that game. But yesterday, the stupid Bronx Bomber said, "Hold my beer." 9 home runs, 3 by Judge, 4 of them in the first inning, off their former teammate Nestor Cortez, for a 20-9 victory over the Brewers. Wow. Just when you thought the Yankees couldn't get on fire again. everybody was talking, oh, what can they do to replace Soto? What can they do to replace Soto? And then we've seen this thing that Yankees are undefeated. Soto hasn't won a game, and Judge has 4 home runs, and Soto has none. So, hey, are the Yankees still the team to beat in the AL East?
Yeah. Until someone can prove otherwise. They are, I mean, they made that run last year for a reason. They didn't really, I mean, granted, they did lose their ace, but right now, with their torpedo bats, is what they're calling it.
Yeah.
Uh, they are earning their name, the Bronx Bombers. They, 9 home runs yesterday, 4 in the first inning was unreal. But again, the torpedo bats, something we need to hit on is now, are they legal? As long as they meet the diameter, they are 2.61 inches. I looked it up. I studied it. It's just, where are we measuring from? Are we measuring from the sweet spot? Because that's where they loaded up the sweet spot with the bat, made it bigger in that little spot. And obviously it has an effect. When you hit 9 home runs the first day you use it, there's a reason why it is. Now, granted, most bats are 2.5 inches, and their 2.61 is what the Major League Baseball rule states. So, yeah, I see a lot of people are going to start doing this, and we're going to go back when like LSU won a national championship back in the early 90s, and they called them the gorilla ball, where every time you touch the ball, it was going out the park. And I think if the rest of Major League Baseball does this, which is always, it's a copycat league, just like every other league. When one team does it, everybody's going to do it. And we're going to see, I think, record-setting home runs this year.
Yeah, it's as long as they're doing it legally, it's okay. If they're doing it illegally, then yeah, that's pretty jacked up. But I'm also a proponent for the steroid user to get in the Hall of Fame, because let me explain something. My reasoning behind that is, hey, look how much money we made you. You know, look, there is no reason that Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire, Roger Clemens, and those individuals who, when the league was dying after the strike, let's be real, after the strike, what, in 92, 93, the league was dying. And those guys brought baseball back. And, to turn your back on those individuals, whether you knew it or not, whether they knew it or not, it is what it is. There should be a place for them, So as long as it's legally, I'm okay with it, man. I like home runs. Fans want to, the only way fans want to see good pitching is on a no-hitter or a perfect game. Let's be honest.
Well, that's the thing. Like, it's go back to the old Atlanta Braves commercial, right, with Greg Maddux and Tom Glavine and all that.
Long ball.
Chicks dig the long ball. So, I mean, that's what it is, right? But again, I'm with you when it comes to the steroid use. It would have been different if it was just Sosa and McGwire and Canseco, right? Your big home run hitters were the ones that were doing it, but everyone was doing it. The pitchers were doing it. So it wasn't like they got an advantage by doing it, because everyone's doing it. Everybody was on that playing field. So if everyone's on the playing field, then why does it matter? Granted, you can make your own little spot and be like, look, this is what happened. You put a little asterisk by it. But at the end of the day, everyone's doing it. No one got an advantage. Now, they could hit the ball longer, sure, but they're also going against a pitcher who could throw the ball faster.
Yep. It was crazy. Remember when Bonds was in his pursuit of the record, they had Eric Gagne closing for the Dodgers, and he saved like some 82 consecutive games, right? And then he's going against Bonds, and if you ever pull up that clip, it's just heat versus heat, And look, last time I checked, steroids adds muscle to you. What does muscle do to your body? It makes you heavier. You still have to be able to swing a bat at 100-mile-an-hour fastball within a millisecond of your brain cognitively saying it's a fastball. It's still the single hardest sport to participate in. And, I think that Major League Baseball should definitely reconsider all the bull crap they're doing, especially now after reconsidering Pete Rose, who posthumously will be hopefully inducted into the Hall of Fame. Long overdue. I mean, yes, gambling's bad, but he always said he didn't gamble against his own team, and he never, cooked the books per se. But I mean, you can't have the greatest hitters of all time not in the Hall of Fame, and it's crazy. And segueing into potentially is going to be one of the greatest hitters of all time. Shohei has now made the Dodgers even more dangerous by starting bullpen sessions. Just when you thought the undefeated Dodgers could not get any prolific. Now, he did say in his defense, he is a long way from returning. He is obviously going the non-traditional route of a Tommy John injury. However, look, I'm telling you right now, if I'm Dave Roberts, Game 7 of the World Series, I'm up 1 extra innings. Shohei, you got 1 inning in you? Hey, yeah, all day. And I that's what you love about baseball. I remember in the World Baseball Classic, him and Trout came down to the final out between Japan and USA. That right there just makes you fall in love with the sport, man. And people can say all they want about the Dodgers having money, this, that, and the third. But look, Shohei is a freak of nature. He's doing things that no one has ever done before. And again, I'm a big proponent for him. And someone that can give you 40 home runs and 15 wins, and then go along with 40 stolen bases and 100 RBIs. I mean, that's video game numbers.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the reason MLB The Show now has the two-way player again. Thank God. It's video game numbers, and that is so amazing. I'm glad he's back in the bullpen. Obviously, it's going to be a long time before he can actually go into a start. I'm sure they're going to opt to send him to a rehab assignment, for a couple of days, and probably be the All-Star break. If I was the Dodgers and I knew he was healthy, I would do it during the All-Star break after the All-Star game because you got those 4 days before you go back to playing. But let's be real. Shohei is doing ungodly things, and it just goes to show, man, who else can do that? I mean, people are mad that Soto got 15 years, 765. It took him to get 5 more years and $65 more million to even beat Shohei's contract. I mean, on the average salary, Shohei still kills him in it, So, but I think it's going to be interesting. I hope he can get healthy. I mean, Bryce Harper did the same thing. He elected not to have surgery, and that's why he moved to first base. And I'm a Bryce Harper fan. A lot of people don't like him because of his attitude, but I like his attitude, man. It's baseball needs excitement like that. Shout out Bryce Harper. Shout out Ohtani. But I like the guys that do it the right way. Mike Trout. I wish that he wasn't in baseball purgatory. I wish that he could go somewhere other than the Yankees or the Dodgers. But maybe Philly. He'll look good in Philly. I mean, he could look good in the Twin Cities too, in that field with that short right field and just going oppo all night. But at the end of the day, baseball is back. It's going to be fun. It's a sprint, 162 games, some 185, 190 days. I mean, it's the fastest sprint that you can handle. And what are some of your thoughts right now after your first week?
I mean, I love baseball. It's a sport I grew up with. It's something about it, that the nostalgia of it, the numbers that go into it. Like we still every once in a while, I'll still do box scores for some reason. I'll go out and I'll do my box score and all that. But I think I'm with you, man. Open days to me, it's like Christmas morning, right? Because everybody has hope. Everybody thinks their team is going to at least do something. Now, granted, the small market teams, my Twins, it's going to be really hard for them to get into the World Series, but it's still hope. There's hope there, right? It comes with spring, so that's another thing that's poetic about it. To me personally, all the greatest sport movies are all baseball movies. There's something about the poetry that goes with baseball.
Yep.
And then like you're saying, like Ohtani, right? That's what makes baseball beautiful. That this guy, he's going up there, he could be playing just as a batter on any team whatsoever. And he'd put up numbers, he'd beat All-Star, he'd be MVP just because of his batting numbers. But then you put behind that he can pitch, get you 15 wins, he can locate the ball, he can spin the ball. It's just players like that is what makes baseball beautiful. And going out to a ballpark, eating a dog, having a beer, watching this beautiful game, it's amazing.
Yeah, and another great thing. Shout out the LA Angels. Ryan Johnson is their second round draft pick last year from Dallas Christian or Dallas Baptist University. Opening day, not opening day, but he made the initial 25-man roster. No minor league, went straight to the pros. That's obviously a feel-good story right there. Shout out to Mr. Johnson. We hope you have an amazing career. You're an amazing athlete. And, at some point, I hope you get out of purgatory of, LA, Anaheim, Disney. So at the end of the day, that's pretty awesome news to see right there. And speaking of draft picks, we can't not hit this right here. The NFL draft, less than 30 days away, brother. What are the Titans doing with that number one pick? What are they going to do? Are they going to hold on? They're going to draft someone like a Cam Ward, even though they just drafted, Will Levis, a couple of years ago. Are they going to move on from him so quickly? Or are they going to go after an Abdul Carter? How's this going to shake out, on the 24th of April?
This one's going to be tough. I like the Titans. It's like, what are you going to go after? Are you actually going to win now? Or are you going to do a project? Like, because I don't see like a Cam Ward, Shador Sanders. I don't see them coming in and making an impact immediately.
Yeah.
Just because you don't have anything else to go with it, right? But I could see them going defensively first and going with Abdul, because I think they're going to want to build that defense up. I was telling my wife the other night, because she just got into coaching with girls lacrosse. I think number one thing you got to do as a coach is you got to stop the bleeding. Before you can go in the attack, you got to stop the bleeding. If you don't stop the bleeding and you're allowing 40 points a game, you can't win. Yeah. Like, the statistics aren't there for you to win. But if you could stop them, bring them down to 20 points a game, then you gave yourself an opportunity to win. So I think they're going to go defensively to begin with.
Yeah, Abdul Carter is a freak. I mean, they're having that talk about a potential injury right now, but I don't see that's going to really do anything wrong. You have to go with the best available. I mean, if you're already wasting money on this quarterback that you already have, I mean, what are you going to do? If you're not going to go after the best quarterback, why would you go after any quarterback? And to be honest with you, I know everybody is reading the sauce about Cam Ward, but I still have my concerns on that young man, especially being an individual where he basically wanted to break a record and quit on his team. All right, so what happens when he gets to that 4,000 yard mark that only 4 rookie quarterbacks have ever done? Is he going to quit on the team? Oh, I'm going to sit out. What happens if they're not in the playoffs? Because let me explain something to you, Mr. Ward. There's a reason Tennessee has the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft. They're not going to be a playoff team. And to be honest with you, I don't see them beating Houston or Indianapolis or even Jacksonville. Let's be real. Let's call a spade there on that. Cleveland, New York, Cam Shador. Obviously Russ is cooking in New York. Yay, he's cooking in New York. However, New York's going to have to find their quarterback of the future, because they start off 0-6. I love Dayball. He's fired. The GM should have been fired last year. Mr. Mara, the owner of the Giants, is not going to keep them on. So what happens there? I think it's going to be real interesting for those 3 days. And I think people are going to be. I think people are going to be satisfied. And who's to say the Titans do not trade out of that number 1 pick? If someone wants one of them quarterbacks bad enough, it's going to happen. And, it's going to be fun and interesting to watch. So I can't wait to see how it figures all out. And, we said we was going to get into this last one. Speaking of colleges here, the men's NCAA basketball tournament. Yes, our bracket has a 2.5% chance in winning, but we have a chance. All we need is Tennessee to win today. And all we need, I believe, is Auburn to win today. And then Duke end it. Last night, Duke and Florida punched their tickets. Florida had a little bit tougher time, facing, Texas Tech. But Duke, I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry, Alabama, but you ran into someone called Cooper Flagg and company. What are your thoughts about today, going into today? Is Tennessee going to be able to knock out Houston? Is the Cougars going to go back to reality?
I don't know. Like I said when we talked about this before, these SEC teams, and you're starting to see it later and later in the tournament, right? Like Alabama last night, Alabama the night before or 2 nights before, they're out there just roping threes.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, they run into a good defensive team, number one. But number two, like those legs are going to give out, and you can see it. They're every time they shoot the ball, it would come up short, or they were forcing shots, and it just has to do. Their legs are going to die out on them. Now with Houston and Tennessee, I think Houston's just going to run through them, just because Houston's so fast. They're fast on offense, and they move the ball beautifully. So Tennessee, they got a shot, but I just think their legs are going to give out at the end of the game. And then Auburn's been struggling a lot, and Michigan State, Izzo's been there. He knows what to do.
Izzo, baby.
So I don't know if Auburn and Tennessee are going to have the legs. And I've said that all from the beginning of the tournament. Just because you play in the SEC, you have to bring it game in and game out. You have to fight for every inch of that court. And it was proven with all the teams that they had in the tournament. And then look at all the teams they have here in the Elite Eight, right? So they are still the upper echelon. They're still the top conference when it comes to basketball, which is weird to say. SEC basketball is the top echelon. Crazy. But their legs are going to give at some point. It's been a long season. It's not like even with football, you get beat up every week, so it's tough on you. But it's a long season, a lot of running. Those legs are going to be shot out. And I mean, hats off to the strength and conditioning coaches that have them here now to get them ready for this, because it's a lot of wear and tear on that court. It's not like grass where it's kind of giving. Those courts are not giving.
Oh man, and them strength and conditioning coaches, those whole sports performance programs are designed specifically to meet the tailored needs of those college athletes and professional athletes. I mean, shout out to all of the sports performance world. We love you, trust me. I wish I had more of you that we can come over here. So yeah, I mean, I agree. I still want Tennessee to win because I still want us to win, selfishly. However, it is what it is at this point. It is what it is, and it ain't what it ain't. If Houston, pulls up and just dominates Tennessee because they're tired, and Izzo's one of the greatest basketball minds there is against Auburn. I mean, it's great, but if Tennessee and Auburn win, I mean, 75% of the Final Four is SEC. We have to start talking SEC is not just football anymore. It is a basketball conference, and there's a potential that can be an all SEC championship game. But someone would have to be Duke, but I don't see that happening.
I mean, SEC pretty much dominates in everything now, right? Yeah. I mean, they dominate in baseball, college baseball. They dominate in gymnastics, which I'm in gymnastics now because my daughter does gymnastics, so got to watch that a little bit.
Shout out to LSU gymnastics team, by the way.
Yep. So, I mean, they won the national championship last year. They won the SEC championship this year. They dominate in women's basketball with South Carolina and LSU, and you got your other ones that are coming back in now. Now they got men's basketball. Football, they're always there. Now, granted, didn't win it last year for football, but they're still there. They're dominating track and field with Arkansas with their distance runners, Florida's with their speed, LSU with their all around. So yeah, I mean, the SEC is where it's at, and it has to do a lot. And there's money, but everybody has money, right? Yeah, it has to do with where the SEC is located, because they can go outside and participate all year round. These northern schools, Big Ten, they can't do that. And then, of course, out there, they don't even know what they're doing in the West because they move over to different conferences, and then they lose their conference that they had, which, I mean, I agree with them because nobody was watching them because they started at 10 o'clock at night. But
now, is that a conference problem, though? Like, I mean, conference, you set your own times. I mean, yeah, you don't want to go at, a 1 o'clock local time, which is 4 o'clock Eastern, whenever the biggest game is on ABC or ESPN. I don't see many people watching USC and UCLA whenever you can watch Michigan and Ohio State playing football. But I think that comes down to the conference itself. Like Colorado made the mention last year, hey, why the hell are we playing at 10 o'clock at night? Right. It's 10 o'clock at night, Colorado, midnight Eastern. Who's staying up and watching?
No, that was great for me when I was 20 years old in the Marine Corps, right? Because we would have those Saturday night parties with everybody come over, and it would just be football on all night, and the party wouldn't end until 2 a.m. anyway. So yeah, it was great at that time. But now I'm 40 years old.
Did it really end at 2 o'clock in the morning, though? Did it really?
Maybe.
A fire or two.
Yeah. But no, like now I'm 40 years old and I got a daughter. I don't want to stay up till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning to watch a game. I did it last night to watch baseball, and I was like passing out in my chair, my recliner, watching the game. So yeah, it's just it is a conference thing. They need to figure out what time works best for them.
Yeah.
But it also, you can't start a game at 8 in the morning either. Like no one's
Yeah.
going to show up for that either.
Yeah, I think again, it comes down to how you schedule the games, and yeah, you're not going to play a game at 8 a.m. That's not going to give your athletes enough time to recover, and you don't always want to come over to the East Coast and play 1 o'clock games, because still 1 o'clock games still 11 o'clock for you, give or take 10 o'clock. So yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see. College sports is going through some changes, and some are good, some are bad. But we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back. We're going to discuss some amazing things that helps out with us as being athletic directors. The importance on eligibility. Everybody, thank you for hanging out with the Chads. We'll be right back. And we're back for the final portion of our show today. Hey, Boudreaux, it's always good to ask to me, man. What's the hardest part about being an athletic director? And the best way I answer that question is, you're not always an athletic director. You're a customer service expert. You're an administrator. You're a liaison. You're that guy. Unfortunately, the best advice that got told to me whenever I first got my AD job is the best ADs are unseen, but you can't be an AD and be unseen. Everybody knows you. And so I try to be an AD that is out there, is able to talk. Because customer service, it means a lot, especially to parents, because most of the time when you have parent conversations, 90% of it, they just want to be heard. You use a lot of I statements. Yeah, I understand. I would feel the same way if I was in your shoes. I understand. And so with this, the biggest thing that we have is eligibility, man. You hear it all the time. Such and such school from another state has to forfeit all wins because they had an ineligible athlete. They're a game away from the state championship. You just lost your whole season. I mean, that's livelihoods, brother. Because you as the AD, it falls on us. Yes, it's a coach, it's a trainer, it's a AD, it's the guidance counselor, whatever. But we all know what each state has rules, And so one of the questions we're going to talk about today is what's some of the biggest misconceptions that coaches, parents, and athletes have about eligibility rules. And I'm going to let you start, and then I'm going to piggyback off you. So the floor is yours, young man.
So yeah, each state does have their own rule.
Yeah.
It's all they all kind of base it off of NCAA rules.
Mm-hmm.
But they also try to make sure that they understand that we're not dealing with 18-year-old young adults anymore. We're dealing with 15-year-old kids. So when they make these rules, every AD, especially here in Florida, we all get this little red book, and it tells us what the rules are. Like here in Florida, number one, you need to have a 2.0. That's there's no way to talk about it. Like
no ifs, ands, or buts about that.
No, it's a 2.0. But the good thing about it too is that instead of us always as AD, we always having to pull everyone's grade every day or every week or every couple weeks. At least for us, it's goes by semester, not 9 weeks. It's semester.
Yeah.
So the hardest part of that would be for winter sports, because you start a season with your fall grades, or with the spring grades, and then you go into after Christmas, you have your spring grades.
Yep.
Or the fall grades come with that. So then some kids, that's why you as a coach need to understand where your kids are, whether you have somebody on your coaching staff that can pull grades, or what we've done at our school is that I've incorporated my wife into it to where she pulls grades every week for every athlete that's on a team, regardless if it's fall, winter, or spring. And if they have a certain grade, she pulls them in for tutoring.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So we know what our kids are doing. I know it's not feasible for every school to do that. I'm lucky enough to where my wife also works at the school, and she wants the entire athletic department to succeed, because then it looks good for me. But that's something we do. And that's the hardest part for parents to understand, is that when we the winter part's the worst part, because when we come back from that break and I'm going up to a kid and I'm like, look, you don't have the grades. It's happened with us this year. For our soccer team, it happened with us for basketball. Like you go up to a kid and you're like, look, you didn't have the grades now. You can't play anymore. And they're like, but I was good. And you're not good anymore.
Yeah. So what I do is it's similar. So obviously you have your tryout dates. We'll say soccer. Soccer is the 15th of October until the 20th of October. We're just throwing random dates out, right?
Somewhere around there, yeah.
We know that before a kid goes on the field, they're medically eligible. So there's nothing against them trying out. It's just against them being put on the team academically. So I wait the coach to make the rosters. Obviously, I'm checking GPAs as they come in to see, hey, buddy, you got like a 2.01, you got 4 Ds and 2 Fs right now. If your semester ended, you're not playing second semester. So I make sure I have those talks and I have the notes. So I keep a spreadsheet. I email back to the coaches, hey, these are the kids that came and checked in for tryouts. Let me know which kids you keep. And if you have any additional changes, send it back to me, right? So at the end, they send me their final one. I go through XYZ, da-da-da. And I'm highlighting the names on the rosters. And I send it back to them. And I say, hey, Boudreaux, he has a 2.1. Right now he has 6 Ds. He might not be eligible when we come back from Christmas. So, we need to make sure that because we have a school-wide study hall on Wednesdays that I make all athletes come in because a lot of our teachers are on campus. So if they got their PLCs and stuff, I can watch them. My trainer can watch them. They can do their homework. And it's also a way of holding the kids accountable because I'm going to see how much you want it. So, when it comes to that and it goes to December, when we come back after winter break, whatever day the grades lock in, it was a little bit different this year because of the hurricanes. And I like to think it's always going to be that way here in Florida. You're always going to lose some days. So we're just going to say generally it's the 10th day when you come back, which is the 16th. So I have a calendar invite on my computer. I send it to all my admin and I say, hey, AD Springer, grade check, unavailable until done. Because I'm going to check the kids' grades because, I don't let the coaches have the talk with them. I do it because when mommy and daddy gets mad, coaches are going to, stumble their words a little bit and maybe say something they shouldn't say. So I'll have the conversation, make sure we're in compliance, luckily for Florida, it's just a 2.0 on a full course load, and nothing too crazy. There's other states that require athletes to have a 2.0, pass 70% of their coursework and have 0 Fs. Imagine that, you got kids with Fs, they can't even play.
Right.
Can't be on your roster, so with that, I think the other misconception is, think about the kid that had an F last year and he goes to credit recovery, ingenuity, whatever. They think that just because their GPA changes after January 16th, they're eligible. They're not. It's locked in. It is locked in until the next semester in the fall or whatever it may be, if you're a fall sport. And parents, they don't understand that. And then that's when I always keep on my computer the eligibility thing so I can always just put it right in an email, send it to them. Hey, because a lot of states now, they let the state legislation determine eligibility. Therefore, it's becoming a law. So, we got the Florida statutes, that is eligibility for athletes. So we're protected as athletic directors as long as we're doing our job. Now, right. When I got a kid, I dangle the carrot sometimes with those kids that are, if I got a 1.98, obviously I can't round it up because that's not what it is. So I dangle the carrot a little bit. I'll make him a manager, practice only as long as he's medically cleared. Be like, look, you have until GPA's update to show me you want this. I'm not going to beat you down and tell you every day to do your grades because now we have to hold you accountable. Do you really want this? And it turned out really good. I had a scholar, student. This individual, she had a rough life prior to coming to our school. And, she had like a 1.5. And what's crazy about that is, I gave her an opportunity to get her grades up because she transferred in, things like that. And man, she has a 2.4 now, a year later. So she worked for it. She's on track to graduate. I find that really, really great because those kids are going to remember that more. You got to give the kids a chance, I think. And I always meet with the parents and admin before I do it. I'm like, hey, this is what the expectations are. I'm going to check your grades. Great. Awesome. But I think, the biggest misconception is if they're not eligible now, can they be eligible tomorrow? Because they're waiting for grades to come in.
Right.
That's not. It's unfortunately locked in, and I hate having those conversations and, because I want all the kids to have an opportunity, but, at some point it's up to the kids to do the work. I mean, you can't come out and play football with a 0.01. I'm sorry.
Right.
not happening, big dog. So at the end of the day, it's this, They need to understand that we have legal issues that we have to follow. There's legal requirements, and I tell people all the time, I say, love you, mean it, but you ain't worth me losing my job.
Right.
So I'm going to do the right thing at all times, whether it's the tough thing to do or whether it's, the thing that makes it the easiest thing to do. It's going to be done the right way. And, speaking of common eligibility issues, we kind of talked on it a little bit. What are some of the most common eligibility issues that athletic directors face, and how can they prevent it? I'm just going to say is not checking. How can you get from January to March and not check your GPAs, and then you find out you got 6 kids ineligible on the soccer team, and you're about to play for the state championship? That's you're hook over. At the end of the day, that the easiest thing is just make sure you keep records, and make sure you have those conversations. And what do you think?
No, mine's going the same way. Common eligible issue. But it's on the medical side, right?
Yeah.
So we both have the same system that we use.
Yeah, eligibility.
So we use the same system to keep track of everything, and that system sends out emails along with I send out emails. Everybody gets emails saying that this many kids are not eligible anymore because their physical expired or they concussion test expired or whatever it is, like something expired, and then all of a sudden you get to the playoffs, and I make it a habit myself where right before playoffs starts, that week leading into the playoffs, I go and check everyone again, just because I was like, I don't want any questions. I don't want the state to come back at us. I don't want us to get in the deep playoff run, make it to states. Next thing, states like, well, this one, and this one are no longer eligible because of this physical or whatever. Yeah. So, and then we get there, and all of a sudden, coach doesn't check those emails. And I'm like, what are we doing? Like, you got this email from the system we use saying this kid is not eligible, and you still have them playing. What are we doing? So that's the biggest issue that I've had in the 3 years that I've been AD. And granted, we throw a lot at the coaches, because they have everything else they have to do besides just the paperwork side of things. I mean, they're responsible for 50 kids. They're responsible for 5 coaches. They're responsible for doing practice plans. If they're a good coach, they better have a practice plan.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then having those conversations with parents, with kids, there's a lot that they have to do, and obviously they're not getting paid a lot to do it. So, but at the end of the day, it's a simple check, and that's the one issue that I keep getting every year. It's that check that email. Please check that email so we don't have a kid playing that's not supposed to be playing.
Yeah, that's one of my biggest pet peeves when coaches don't check my email, man. Because what they fail to realize is I send read receipts on everything. If I'm emailing coaching, especially if say my principal's on it or admin's on it, I'm sending read receipts because I want to know if you're actually reading my stuff. Because I tell my coaches, I don't email you just to email you because I'm sitting around bored in my office, which is very rarely I'm ever in my office anyway. But I'm not doing this to make it to where you have to do extra work. I'm just saying, hey, go in home campus. You all have access to it. You all see your rosters. Oh, well, we use Activate. No, I still got to put it in home campus. Activate is for you to put your rosters in so you can have a clear shot of it. And also look at the email I sent you with, hey, Johnny's physical is going to expire, December 31st. We're on winter break. Make sure when we come back on January 4th, you have the physical, So it's a threefold, man. It has to come down to the directors, the trainers, and the coaches, and even the kids and parent themselves. Now, you can't expect a 15-year-old kid to be like, hey, my physical is expiring, because all they want to do is get on the field and play. So that's where we need to protect them. That's where we need to protect their eligibility and also protect our school. Because the last thing I hate is, man, have to self-report, send on in a fine. That takes money out of our kids, essentially, And, that $500 fine could be the difference in getting, 5 footballs or, paying for transportation, So I think the biggest thing is just have everything ready to go. Like on my computer, it's right there, says 2025, 26 or 2024, 25 roster. So I click on it and every roster has a tab. So I know which the kids I cut, I already deleted them off. Don't need them on there because that roster also matches the FSJ home campus roster. So, going over eligibility, I mean, we get a lot of kids transferring from other states. All right. So how does academic eligibility requirements vary from state to state? and what should ADs be aware when enforcing them? Like, I think personally, you just need to be aware of what your state allows you to do. There might be a state out there that requires athletes to have a 1.5. And that kid could be a military kid moving down here, which we have to give that student and athlete an opportunity to try out. However, our state says 2.0. So we have to follow what our state says. And again, them other states out there with the 70% passing, no Fs and things like that, that's controlled by the state itself. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't mind seeing Florida incorporate some of that stuff just for, a more universal thing, because there's a lot of kids that transfer from these states. But it's just knowing your state's laws. I mean, I don't live in Tennessee, so I could care less what Tennessee High School Athletic Association does. No disrespect. I don't live in Texas, so the Independent School District Football Association, Athletic Association, whatever, it doesn't affect me, but the Florida High School Athletic Association does. The school district of Osceola does. So I have to be mindful of what that is. Any comments on that?
Yeah, it's just communication and understanding the rules. Like, and if you don't know, go to the book, find where it is in the book. It always baffles me especially when it's the known rules and that you're talking to other ADs or you're talking to coaches that you have and they don't even know like the known rules.
Yeah.
So it's something that we as ADs need to make sure we understand and that we get it out there. Now, of course, there's going to be things that pop up that you never heard of ever.
Yeah.
So then you're going to have to go to the book and figure it out. But then you have that conversation and be like, hey, guys, this just came up. This is what the rule is. This is what we got to follow. And then you move on from that. But yeah, like the 2.0, and I agree, like we need it. I like the 2.0.
Yeah.
Granted, NCAA is 2.3, but I like the 2.0 because it gives every kid a chance. I mean, you just have to have a seat. You just have to have a seat and you're good.
Show up in class. Don't be an idiot.
Right. The one that gets me is the way it's written is the whole attendance.
Yeah.
The way the state has it written, it's like regular attendance. What does that mean? What is regular attendance? Like, it doesn't define what regular attendance is because that could vary from person to person, from district to district, from school to school.
School districts can be on that block schedule, like we're on that 7-period schedule. Some schools could have 4 periods a day, I mean, I think, what is it, like 50%, or they got to be in class for half the day or 50% of what their schedule is or something like that.
But that's not even a real rule. Like, that's just something that we came up with as a district saying, like, this is what we thought the rule would be. Mm-hmm. But if you look in that red book, it just straight up says regular attendance.
Yeah. Yeah. And, like kids, like I love them. They don't want to come to school. I'm not going to say I went to school every day when I was in high school. I get it. But, we again, that's where we're put in a situation where we have an FSHA, but we also have the SDOC. So we just have to make sure we're on point. And I try to tell my kids, I'm like, dude, just show up to school. That's all you got to do. Because I do on game days, I do run attendance records of my teams. If Johnny's not at school, I send the coaches a text. And then I send him a follow-up email. Hey, Johnny didn't come to school today. There is no medical authorization or whatever. Unless I get one before you play, he ain't in the dugout or he ain't on the field,
Right.
So it's just, again, that part comes down to just knowing what you're doing and knowing how, everything goes. I mean, because again, every state's different, and when we had COVID, it was crazy because they was like, oh, you know what? Everybody's eligible. Everybody was eligible during COVID, and they was in North Carolina, they moved our football season to the spring, and it was a sprint. It was a sprint, man. We had like 6 games or 7 games, and then boom, right in the playoffs. It was a 12-week sprint basically. And, I'm sure it was probably crazy down here too. But at the end of the day, it's just educate yourself. I mean, there's a reason we have the FIAAA, NIAAA, and all that, and we have those meetings that we have to go into. And I find them good. One, it's professional development. 2, I mean, sometimes it ain't money out of your pocket, So just the advice I would give for a young AD. I'm not saying I'm the greatest AD. I'm not. I'm far from it. This is only my 3rd year, just like you. But the advice is just find that person that's the OG. Like to me, shout out Aaron Crawford, shout out Brian Bruce, even Lonnie Flores over there in OCPS. I mean, I call you and TK a lot over here in SDOC. I even call Ryan. I talk to him and bounce ideas off him. Like, you just got to find that OG that, is going to lead you the right way and that's going to give you that advice. Because honestly, I faced an issue about the whole eligibility changing in the middle of the semester. And like, I didn't know because I just got down to Florida, and so I had to look that up and I had to, get the rule and the clarification. And, it was an unfortunate conversation we had to have. But it's always just educate yourself, man. And, always stay, up to date. I like when the FSHA does send out their rule changes. They send it directly to the ADs and the coaches of that specific sport. Like, I got asked this year, I thought, sunglasses couldn't be worn in flag football. I was like, well, you clearly didn't read your email. That came out. And obviously it has to be like ballistic, shatterproof with a strap. But if the referees ain't yelling at them about it, I'm not going to yell at them about it. Just don't get hit in the face.
Right.
Put your hands up. Put your hands up. But we're going to take a quick break, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to close it out after this. We appreciate you joining us on this beautiful Sunday before the rain. And thank you for hanging out with the Chads. We will be right back in a moment. And we are back. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. We appreciate you bearing with us. Hey, Boudreaux, AD life ain't for the weak, brother. I tell myself every day, it ain't for the weak. It's one of the most selfless and thankless jobs you can have, because at the end of the day, we're solely responsible for making sure our kids have the best opportunities they can. And, you're doing an amazing job over there where you're at. I like to think I'm doing a substantial job where I'm at, considering how when I first started there, a lot of positives we have. And, it's definitely a thankless job. Like I posted last year when my kid went to the wrestling state championship, and I was like, these long hours mean something when that happens. Like yesterday, I was at the school at 6:30 in the morning. I left about 7:00 last night, district weightlifting, but it was fun. Just watching the kids compete. We got a lot of positive feedback. We had a little technical error at the beginning. We worked through that though, improvised, adapted, and overcome. But, what's some, closing words? What's some good advice for those young ADs out there, brother?
Just remember, well, first of all, before we get into that, I just want to say you are doing an excellent job over there. We have differences between the two schools. Your school is a very hard school to get the support that you're getting. I get support on my side, on my school, but it's a different kind of support. So it's trying to make everyone happy, but also getting it to make sure everyone understands is where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
At my school, but you're doing a great job over there.
Appreciate
like
it,
I said, it's a hard school to be successful at. And
you told me that whenever I told you I was going to take the job.
Yeah, I did. But so yeah, the advice I would give is that just remember that number one, you're there for the kids.
Yeah.
You're not there, like you're there to support the coaches, you're there to make sure admin understands what's going on. But at the end of the day, it's the kids. So if you're there to make sure the kids have their opportunities, you celebrate the successes no matter how small they are. Then you're going to be, regardless of whatever else happens, that's what makes a good AD. Yeah. It's thankless. You work a lot of hours, very thankless, but then you do get those one or two kids or one or two parents or even coaches or admin that'll sit there and they'll thank you. And then it makes it all worth it. Watching the kids win or watching the kids just enjoy being out there on the field, on the court. That's where it really comes down to. So as long as you keep understanding that everything you do, no matter the stress, the headaches, the sleepless nights, it's for those kids and watching those kids grow.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You're right. It's only about the kids. I tell people all the time, I don't care about all the crap goes on between 7:30 or 7:00 and 2:30 in the afternoon. I care about everything after 2:30. Yeah, we have many other tasks we have to do throughout the day, but it's always important when that kid comes up and is like, Coach, appreciate you. It's always great for me. I can tell you one of the best things that's been told to me is the referees. It's like, Springer, since you got here, it's been a night and day difference than what it was. And for me as an AD, that's what I want to hear is that, referees actually want to travel that road to get down to that school, because it is not an easy road to drive down at any time during the day. Uh, I would rather drive I-4 Champions Gate every single day than sometimes going down that traffic filled disaster. But when the kids find out where I live and how far I travel and I'm here every day, like I tell them, I'm like, it's all because of you. I've had, as you know, I've had a lot of personal things happen in these 2 years. My best friend, who's my brother, died. His mother died. My mother had a stroke. I never missed work. I was always there because it's about the kids, man. The kids are the only thing that matters. And that's what I would tell an AD. You get you someone, you're number 2, that's going to be able to be in the trenches with you. You get a number 3 that's going to be able to be in the trenches with you. It's going to make your life easier because they're going to care about the kids. You got to get the right ideology, and there are, a lot of positives now going on down there at Old Pleasant Hill Road and Point Santa Boulevard. And, we made a lot of positive strides this year. We're going to see what next year plays out. We're going to see if we can continue making positives, because, there's people that didn't know that we got over $100,000 locker room renovation. Thank you, School District of Osceola County. I appreciate that. But our kids deserved it. Our kids deserve to have something nice. Our press box is being renovated. Now we're finally going to have some speakers, and thank you, School District of Osceola County, for that. But it's all about them. They deserve to hear their baby's name on the loudspeaker too. They deserve to have somewhere where they can feel safe, go put their stuff in a locker and just sit there and chill before a game. And it's all about the kids, brother. And I'm going to give it to you one last time for the closing remarks on what we're going to close the show with every single week, baby.
Get better.
Hey, this is Chad Boudreaux. I'm Chad Springer. Make sure you follow Hanging With The Chads on all of our social media platforms. We love you. We are going to miss you for a week. And thank you for all that you do, ladies and gentlemen. Be great.